When I was in college, I was a social butterfly. I love meeting new people. I was that guy, the guy that would meet anyone. I see that now in my son. He is that guy. All that said, I remember one time specifically in college when I went to eat supper. And every time I walked into the eating area, I looked for people that I knew and people that I didn't know. Well, I saw Eddie, a friend of mine, sitting with a few people, so I went over and I joined them. Eddie and I were always joking, so as soon as I saw him, I got into that frame of mind. As I approached the table, we were bantering back and forth about something, and a girl I had never met was sitting next to Eddie. I can't remember exactly what was said, but I remember her turning toward me and saying, "What?" as if she had missed what I said. And in my witty, playful, joking mood, I said, "Are you deaf?" And about the time the D and the E from that word deaf was coming out of my mouth, I realized she was wearing hearing aids. That's right. She was deaf. And I was a jerk. An unintentional jerk, but nonetheless, a foot in my mouth, think before you speak, moron, jerk. And she immediately got up from the table and walked away. Turns out she didn't hear the first thing I had said, but the words, "Are you deaf?" They came in loud and clear. Now, I'd like to say that we recovered from that moment, but I'm not sure we ever did. I did apologize, and she did keep her distance. Have you ever regretted the words that just came from your mouth? You may have even said, "I regret saying that." I feel like I constantly am saying this, or at least thinking it. How did that come out of my mouth? What is wrong with me? Take a minute and share a time in your life when you open your mouth and wish you hadn't. One of those times that you wish you could just reel back in what you had just said. James 3, 1 through 18. Read that text together. And after reading that, have someone retell it in their own words and illustrations that they may have to go with that. There's a lot to say about the tongue. There's a saying that your parents used to say. You remember it? "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but..." See, you know it. Words will never hurt me. If only that were true. We'd like to say words don't hurt, but I can tell you firsthand that I have sat with many people who are struggling with life because of hurtful words that have been spoken to them. Words, they hurt. Is there a time in your life when you've been on the receiving end of difficult words directed at you? How have these words affected or shaped you? Once we begin to share our stories, it's easy to see the destructive power of words. It's easy to see what James was talking about in verse 6, that the tongue is a fire. And sometimes the fire that the tongue sparks can come roaring like a wildfire. It burns out of control. We are the only people that have control of our tongues. Nobody makes us say or do anything. Now, I've heard it said that I just got so mad that I couldn't help it. I just had to say something. At some point, we choose to allow the words to come out of our mouth, regardless of what someone else says or has done. And in theory, we control what leaves our mouth, right? In theory, those words are a direct correlation to what's in our heart. Verses 9 and 10 say, "But no one can tame the tongue. It's a restless evil and full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men. Who has been made in the likeness of God? From the same mouth come both blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be this way." The third question is, how is it that the same tongue that blesses our Lord is so quick to curse man? What do you feel like causes this inconsistency? Matthew 12:34, the end of 34 there says, "For out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks." I believe this statement to be true, that our mouth speaks the words that seep deep on our hearts. And the reason we have such a hard time controlling our words is because it's so deeply ingrained on our hearts. What can we do to work toward changing a heart problem? Practically, what does it look like in this group, in your group? What does it look like in your everyday life? Discuss that. Michael Jordan had unbelievable physical gifts. Some of the kids in the room are probably going, "Who's Michael Jordan?" Now, I've seen those shoes before, and that just hurts my heart a little bit. It was hard work that made him a legend. When Jordan first entered the league, his jump shot wasn't good enough. He spent his offseason taking hundreds, if not thousands, of jumpers a day until it was perfect. Phil Jackson, Jordan's coach, wrote that Jordan's defining characteristic wasn't his talent, but having the humility to know that he had to work constantly to be the best. James makes it clear that we're called to action in all parts of our life. In the text, we're called to practice controlling our tongue. Just like Michael Jordan on his skills may not be honed in yet, but it's about practice. Be careful, little mouth, what you say. I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't think this would be difficult. The good news is we have each other. You have a small group you're sitting with right now watching this. You may have some other friends you lean on in your walk. In this text, we're called to practice control, to go to the court and to change how we speak to others. Perfection never comes if you're not willing to try to improve. May the God that created the world lead us to change our hearts and control our tongues.